Nikhil Malankar. Welcome to today evening's stream on Scalar's YouTube channel. If you are new over here, press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another videos from therein. This is a live session wherein I will be answering your commonly asked questions with regards to game development. About myself, I have been in this industry since 2013, and I started my career by founding this company called GameEon Studios. And since then till now, GameEon has grown from leaps and bounds. And I'm here to actually help you guys address any of the questions that you might have with regards to game development. All right, I was just checking on the audio levels. All right, so guys, welcome to the stream. And if you have any doubts with regards to game development, feel free to ask in the comment section. This is a live chat session wherein I'll be answering any and every question that you might have related to game development. So ask me right away. So Pulkit Mins asks, what is a graphic designer? I have been seeing this on LinkedIn. So essentially, what a graphic designer is that they create all the graphics related to games. It can be 2D art, it can be illustrations, it can be posters. So graphic designing is majorly related to all the 2D artwork. It can either even be UI design or maybe promotional materials. So broadly, that is what a graphic designer is. So Pulkit, I hope that answers your question. Vinay Kumar, how to get a job at BGMI? BGMI is managed by a company. So essentially, in order to, I'll just answer this question in a broad way. So if you want to get a job at any company that is made a certain game, right? All you have to do is just go onto their website, check out their website and check out their career section. And if they have any vacancy in their company, then they will answer that. They will essentially, you need to get in touch with them, send out your resume, and if there is a requirement for your particular portfolio, then they'll reach out to you. So that's how you can land a job in essentially any company, be it an indie game studio or a AAA studio. That's the only way that you can apply for a job. So just go ahead, check out their website, check out their vacancies, and apply for that vacancy. The other way that you can do this is by following these companies on LinkedIn. These companies, including our own company, post job vacancies from time to time. So watch out for their website and their LinkedIn channels, as well as sign up on different job platforms wherein you can potentially get jobs from. So I hope that answers this question as well. Bhai asks, how much package does a game developer get, sir? So it really depends on the kind of profession or the sub role that you are looking for. So let's say if you are looking for a programming role or an artist role, or are you looking for a 2D artist or a 3D artist role? So it differs from role to role. But as a fresher, I think you could expect anywhere between 15,000 to 20,000 per month in terms of salary. On a mid-level, you can expect upwards of 25,000 rupees, and on a senior level, anywhere upwards of 50,000 rupees and more. On senior levels, you can also land up jobs that pay you in tune of almost 1 lakh per month as well. So can we make a multiplayer server on Unreal Engine and or Unity? So I'm aware of the how you can make a multiplayer game on Unity game engine. The easiest way is by using this framework called Photon Unity Networking. You can use Pun Real-Time to make a multiplayer game. Mani's asked, when will Mumbai release be completed? Will be for low-end PC or only high-end machines? So Mani's, since this is a session hosted on Scalar's platform, I will not be able to give any details with regards to our own project. So we will, in the interest of the current question and answers, we'll stick to game development questions. For Mumbai release, we will not be addressing any of those questions in this particular stream. So any questions with regards to Mumbai release, those will be skipped for this particular video. Pulkit means, so by the way, I am waiting for the video where you will explain about game story writing. What you can tell is about it though. So with regards to game story writing, it really boils down to what kind of narrative do you want to make. So if you want to actually come up with a storyline, you first have to decide on the subject that you're approaching. And that subject, is it a fictional subject or a non-fictional subject? A fictional subject essentially means that this is a story that you are telling for the very first time. It has never been told before. So accordingly, you then have to come up with characters, and then once you are decided on characters, you then have to create a proper narrative element. After that, you have to decide on the dialogues. So it's an extensive process. The same goes with a non-fictional story as well. Non-fictional, you have to be extra careful with the source material. So you have to make sure that whatever you are narrating is factually true. Otherwise, it can potentially cause a backlash. So there goes a lot of components into making the storyline of a game. It's not really a small answer to this, but it's just the very basics of it. Which language is needed? Asks Bhishan Sharma. So Bhishan, I think you can start learning C++ at the very beginning. You can start learning the basics of that. Post you will know all the concepts of C++, you can upgrade yourself and start working in C Sharp. I would recommend C Sharp because it is primarily used in Unity game engine, and if you know C++ or C Sharp, you will be very much comfortable in coding in Unity game engine. And this is also because Unity game engine is also pretty easy to use. So go ahead, by all means, start learning C++ and keep on upgrading your knowledge. For 2D game development, which one would you prefer, Unreal or Unity? So for 2D game development, I would most certainly prefer Unity game engine, and that is because Unity is not very graphic intensive, and neither is it hardware intensive. When it comes to Unreal Engine, it is extremely hardware intensive, and you need a decent specifications of your computer in order to run the Unreal Engine. Whereas on the other hand, Unity game engine can be run in a mid-level graphics card system as well. And since you are working on a 2D game, you don't really need those high-end graphics as such. Plus, the work environment is very easy to use in terms of the framework that Unity game engine has established. So most definitely, if you're making a 2D game, I would recommend to use Unity game engine. But if you have like a different pipeline planned out and you need those kind of heavy graphics in your game, then go for Unreal Engine. Otherwise, it would be an overkill. I would say stick to Unity Game Engine at least for your basic projects. Game development internships or opportunities, please. So Cody, there are in fact a lot of game development internship opportunities. All you have to do is just go ahead and look for these opportunities on companies' LinkedIn pages, or you could also sign up on some internship websites wherein you will get much more idea and a much deeper exposure to internships. Pulkit Mins asks, okay, story writing, I have answered the question. Brijwasi Beg asks, Sir, I want a desk job but without coding. If it is possible, then what are the courses for it? So you can actually opt for some courses online. You can really, even look for courses on YouTube. Apart from that, there are some other channels as well wherein you can learn the courses. I think if you just Google some courses on game development, you will be able to find a lot of courses on there. Uh, Pulkit means, what else can you tell us more about graphic designing or designer? So graphic designing and designer, like the primary role of a graphic designer is to create artworks and illustrations. They work with software such as Photoshop or Illustrator, or some also use GIMP. With regards to Photoshop and Illustrator, these are paid softwares. So if you can afford their subscription, go ahead and use these softwares. I personally think that they are super easy to use and they are value for money. But if you don't want to spend, if you are falling short of the subscription amount, then you can always go and opt for free resources. GIMP is one of them. So even GIMP has like almost all the features that Photoshop has, and it is open source and free. So the way it is spelled is GIMP. So if you don't have the capital to invest in going for a subscription of Photoshop, I would recommend GIMP to you. How to hire good people for your studio? Bold Pixels asks. So hiring process is quite complex, and this is primarily because when you're hiring, you have to first ensure, do you have the requirement to hire? Right? Let's say, for example, if you're making a game, right? The very basic components of a game project are, you need a game designer, you need a game programmer, you need a game artist. and then you have to then realize and recognize your own requirements. Do you need to hire a programmer? Can you code yourself? If you can code yourself, then you don't need to hire a programmer. Then you need to hire maybe a game designer and a game artist. Okay, that's one. Once you do define your scope of hiring, then it's a matter of putting the word out there. It can either be as a job listing. You can go ahead, put a job listing on LinkedIn, or you can utilize all the other job posting sites as well. You can opt for Outscale. You can go ahead and post your requirements on Naukri or Monster Jobs or whatever. Then once that is done, then you have to actually conduct interviews, right? For all the requirements that you have to conduct interviews. I would say whenever you conduct interview, give the person a task, because without if let's say you are hiring a programmer and someone has applied for the position but they don't know how to code, then that person will not really be of any use to you. So whenever you're hiring, make sure in the interview process you don't just ask them questions, but give them a follow-up task, so that you understand that hey, whatever you are hiring for, the person will actually be capable to execute that. Once all of this is done, then you actually have to also check the candidate's aptitude. Are they good to work with? Do they have a good personality? All of these factors really come into play. However, even after doing and checking all the right boxes, it is still possible that you end up hiring the wrong person. Take this with a pinch of salt. Is that whenever you hire, it's always a leap of faith. You cannot determine if a hire is potentially going to be good or bad when you hire them. It is only once you go through the process that you understand if the candidate is good or bad. However, I think if you can invest a little bit of amount, I would recommend you to build up a HR department, and this is primarily the job of the HR to actually screen candidates and make sure that they suit your company's requirements. So this is the broad answer to your question. Requirements to become a game developer. HK, that's a wonderful question. It really depends on what you want to do in the game development field. So let's say, for example, if you want to become a game artist, then you need to know a couple of softwares. As we already touched upon in the past, right? In order to know game development or game art, you need to first pick up software such as Photoshop or Illustrator. And if you want to become a 3D modeler, then you can either learn 3ds Max or Maya. If you want to do sculpting, then Mudbox can be one software. Like this, you have to determine what is it that you actually want to do in the game development field, and then keep on learning and educating yourself around that skill. If you want to become a programmer, write code. Go ahead, check out your different game engines and understand how they work. So everything really boils down to your understanding of what you want to do. Avijay asked which programming language more help in game development in Unity engine. C Sharp, because C Sharp is the primary language being used in Unity game engine. Earlier, Unity game engine used to offer two more languages. One was JavaScript and the other was BooScript. But now Unity completely uses C Sharp. So if you want to make games in Unity game engine, then most certainly C Sharp is the language that you need to know. Prachi Patole asked, I want to know how is game level designing and graphic designing related, and what additional skills I want to learn to pursue graphic designing in the gaming industry. So game level designing and graphic designing are actually two different sides of the coin. All right. So graphic designing is more about creating all the artworks that are going to be populated either in your UI or your promotion material. That is graphic designing. In addition to that, an extension can also be your 3D modeling and all, but that is essentially the graphic designing part. But when it comes to game level designing, it is a completely different ballgame. Because when it comes to game levels, what you are doing over there is you are defining the structure in which the game is going to play pan out. So let's say, for example, if you are building a city level, all right, the job of a game level designer is to determine the architecture of the entire level. Where exactly are buildings going to be placed? Where exactly is the level designer going to place the signals? How many pedestrians are going to come from point A to point B? Is every building enterable or not? So planning all of this is the role of a game level designer, whereas the graphic designer majorly deals on creation of artworks as opposed to just the planning. So those are the two short, sharp differences. And your follow-on question to this was, what additional skills you'd want to learn to pursue graphic designing in the gaming industry? I think just brush up your knowledge of these softwares that I mentioned, Photoshop, Illustrator. These are largely used in the gaming industry when it comes to graphic designing. And post that, it's just you keeping updated with regards to all the trends in the market. So I hope that answers your question, Prachi. Mohit asked, Nikhil, how do you manage cash flow in GameEon in early days before the fundraise? So that's a really good question. When it comes down to managing cash flows, it is you need to determine what is your monthly burn. Now, what burn means is how much money is coming in the bank and how much money is going out of your bank. So that can be in terms of salaries, it can be in terms of rent, it can electricity, internet expenses, etc., etc. So you have to essentially create a list and project your expenses 6 or 12 months down the lane of how many expenses you are going to incur, and according to that, try to create revenues for yourself. Now, this can be either creating your own games or by actually working for a hire and building games for clients and thereby creating cash flows for yourselves. So it is all a matter of experience and doing it rather than planning, because you can plan 100 different things, but everything actually boils down to execution. However, planning is also critical. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So it goes hand in hand. You have to actually have both the things work together in favor for yourself in order to make sure that you survive. And most of the times it is a stroke of luck. Sometimes it may happen so that 6 or 8 months you did not have any cash to work with, but suddenly in the ninth month you get an amazing project, and that really buffers out your losses that you had incurred in the last 6 to 7 months. So before the fundraise, it was more of juggling expectations and planning beforehand. Let's say for the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. Primarily for the worst case scenario, because whenever you are in the business, you always are in the worst case scenario, and just you have to assume that, because without doing that, you will always become lethargic, and then that will eventually lead to bad decisions. So planning for the worst case scenarios is how I manage the cash flows. Popular way of marketing of engineers game in the market. So nowadays, a lot of people are relying on influencers in order to promote their games. It comes as a double-edged sword, because your cost of acquiring users when it comes to influencer marketing becomes extremely high. However, it really helps create word of mouth for your game, and then the returns on that can be recouped over a period of time. But what you can also do is invest a small budget in putting into advertisements with regards to Google ads or Facebook ads, because over there your cost of acquiring per user is extremely low. It can be as low as 2 rupees to 5 rupees per user from the Indian subcontinent. It can even go lower than that. When it comes to marketing abroad, obviously the cost goes higher than that. It can be as high as 10x times of your cost of acquiring a user in India. But if you are able to actually recoup that investment and register a profit per user, then you can actually start investing that capital once again in marketing. So to answer your question in a very short manner, I think the best way to market is one, by investing in ad networks such as Google ads, Facebook ads, and you can give a try with regards to influencer marketing, because influencer marketing, if done right, then your cost of acquiring per users will also drastically come down, but the chances of that might be really low. So it's really a decision that you have to adhere to and adapt over a period of time. Toolkit means, how do sound artists do exactly, and what software do most sound artists use? So, what do they do exactly is literally, and this I can answer this question primarily because we have recently created a proper audio department. In terms of softwares, perhaps I may not be able to share a lot of information on that, because I'm myself largely unaware of the softwares being used, but FL Studio is one software. Then if the someone is making audio on Mac, then they can use GarageBand. And what they do exactly is they create all these sound assets that are required for a game. In addition, they also go ahead and record actual sounds, actual physical sounds that are around you to actually enhance the quality of the overall sound. So what can you tell about NFTs and its role in video games? So NFTs are essentially, the full form is non-fungible tokens, and the very basic example is that difference between a fungible token and a non-fungible token. So your cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all, or your fungible tokens, which means that you cannot, and NFTs are essentially pieces of art that you can actually trade for your fungible token. So, or even real currency for that matter. Whereas fungible tokens act more like a currency and a tender to exchange, right? Non-fungible tokens are unique, and the way that they play a role in video games is that NFTs can actually act as your in-app purchases. So the scope of this work is like extremely high, and a lot of people are now entering into this space wherein they are trying to figure out how they can make the most out of it. We as a studio are still in the experimental phases of NFTs, so I may not be able to share much information in today's date, but perhaps in some other session I may be able to share more light on this part. Coming to the next question, okay, is game developer and same as game designer? Healthy fit team? No, it is not actually. A game developer is a broad umbrella term. A game developer can generally people understand game development as a game developer as a game programmer. So if you are differentiating between a game programmer and a game designer, the primary difference is that, as I mentioned earlier, a game designer thinks about the game. We talked about game level designer, but now let's come to the game designer aspect of it. So, game designer is actually a completely misunderstood term, because when it comes to game designer, people start focusing on the word design in the role itself, right? And that's really where the issue starts, right? Because when it comes to game design, the word that gets registered in our mind is design, and then it automatically leads us to believe that design has to do something related to art, but that's not true. Design is actually that your game is being structured, right? So primary role of a game designer is actually to think about the game and design its game mechanics. Okay, that's the primary role. So the role of a game designer is documentation, literally writing down the things that would potentially make your game fun to play. That's the role of a game designer. Whereas a role of a game programmer is to actually write code and make the vision of the game designer come true into the form of a game. So that those are the fundamental differences between a game designer and a game programmer. Is background music in games can be main reason for game popularity? Absolutely, it can be. Like, it depends from game to game, really. If there can be games that wherein the background score is really what sets apart the game, but it's different from game to game, really. Healthific team, thank you very much for your kind words. Suman Behlim, how to get high salary as a game developer? So when it comes to salary, you have to, think from perspective of the employer. What is salary? A salary is an indicator of how much value you are to the company, right? So what you have to do is keep on improving yourself, keep on upgrading yourself, and keep on proving to the company that, hey, I have grown X and X, and I want X salary, right? So that really defines you as a person, because you cannot expect a high salary just primarily because you are a talented person, right? You have to make sure that your talent will be used by the company and they can register a profit using that talent. So start thinking of why should a company pay me a high salary rather than how should I get a high salary. Think from the business owner's perspective. Let's say, for example, if you want any amount of salary, right? You want maybe 40,000 per month, 50,000 per month, whatever it is. What will you do that will enable the company to justify that salary for you? So start thinking in that way, and then you will automatically figure out how you will be able to get that high salary. Priya Kadakia asks, is there a good scope for game development in India? There absolutely is. Right now, India is on the forefront of becoming a global powerhouse for gaming because there are tons of gaming companies popping up in India, and a lot of gaming companies are churning out some really good titles. So the scope of game development in India is tremendous. A follow-up question from Priya is, hey, I was also wondering if there are any certification courses that one can take to upskill. My cousin is into game development and I want to help him do better. So absolutely there are. I would give a big shout out to a proper certification course that is conducted by Unity Game Engine themselves. So they do provide certification courses, and likewise there are tons of other certification courses available online as well. So to answer your question, yes, there is. The audio is lagging. I don't know if it is with me only. I'm not sure. We feel at your end. Yeah, so Scaler has chipped in and mentioned that Siddharth, the audio issue might be on your end. Utkarsh Kumar, hello. Old pixels. For 2D art, is a mouse better or drawing tablet, which is best for a low-end game studio like mine? So I would say definitely a pen tablet, which is what you're referring to. A pen tablet is a great value add because with a mouse, you're really restricted by your hand movement and how you're able to adapt to your mouse movement. But if once you go onto a pen tablet, once you make that switch, it'll be very difficult for you to, as a 2D artist, go back to the mouse because we've seen that pattern happen a lot in our own studio. So I would say, yes, a pen tablet is a really good investment. If you can afford even a cheap one to start with, that's fine. Go ahead and make that investment because it is going to just give you tremendous amount of returns over your quality. So most certainly it is. Utkarsh, what is your open opinion on cloud gaming in the future? I think it's a great initiative. What I'm looking forward to is an improvement in the infrastructure because once the infrastructure increases and improves, uh, gaming should really be accessible to one and all. That's really my belief. Nobody should be restricted with the platform that they have or the system that they have. I think everyone should have access to equal good quality of games. Nobody should, really be able to differentiate in terms of quality, and that democracy is really needed. And that democracy is what is shown as a hope with regards to cloud gaming. So I'm hopeful for cloud gaming to pick up, and I'm also hopeful for the infrastructure to get built so that everyone can play good quality games. Pulkit means, so how could one pitch the story to someone who is in game development? So it depends on the game developer, right? I mean, if you start to pitch your story, are you pitching it to actually get your game developed by someone, or is it that you want to actually sell your story to someone? If you want to sell your story to someone, then you have to figure out whoever you're selling the story to, do they have a requirement for that story? If not, then that's a dead end. You cannot sell ice to an Eskimo. All right. But if you want to actually collaboratively work together with someone, then that's a different story. I think the simplest way is to create a brief about your story, like a really high point summary of your story that you want to tell, and then create a small document explaining why it will be interesting to say. And then start approaching different people. It may not really be a particular game studio or anything. You can pitch the idea to multiple people, but be careful because you may have to deal with a lot of rejections, and that might be slightly demotivating. Just being completely frank and honest with you, because that's how it works in the industry. You have to knock 100 doors in order to make sure that one or two of them or 10 of them open for you, and then one or two of them really give you the acceptance. Can Adobe software help in game development regarding graphics? Absolutely. As I mentioned, Adobe has two really good softwares, Photoshop and Illustrator. So those two softwares can really help you out. Brave programmer Vedant More, hello. Aryan Vijay Singh, hi. Siddharth Singh, what are the mistakes to avoid in the process of learning the same? Please answer to me. So the mistakes to avoid is to not go after big projects. All right. Your very first game, you have to realize that you cannot build a AAA title at your very first try. The common mistake that people do nowadays is that they've played big games. They've played games such as GTA, Call of Duty, or whatever, and they want to replicate that. They want to make the same game, and they have huge aspirations. Now, I would say having those aspirations is not bad at all. In fact, it's a good thing. You want to make something, you want to actually create the next big blockbuster. That's a great aspiration to have. but that aspiration has to be grounded in reality. It has to have that pathway. You have to make sure that you have the right set of equipments and people to enable yourself to make a game like that. So avoid the mistake of starting big in your very first game. Start small. That's fine if you are a youngster or even like a mid-aged guy. There's no harm or there's no shame in starting a small project. All right, everyone has to start small and then eventually add up and build up. The second mistake is quitting too early. Game development takes time. You have to realize that, and there's no alternative. There is no magic wand that will automatically, make the game for you. So you have to be patient. You have to give time to the skill. You have to invest time in the skill, and that's how you learn. That's how you really, upskill yourself. So yeah, those are the mistakes that you need to avoid. Hey, Lakshay asked, hey, I also want to know the career options in gaming industry. So tons of career options, tons of career options. Right off the bat, if I were to tell you, in programming, you can go become a game programmer, environment programmer, sound programmer. That this all of those categories. In terms of artist, you have to further determine if you want to become a 2D artist or a 3D artist. In 2D, you can become a graphic designer or a UI designer. Simply just making UI is also a job role. Then you can become like a 3D artist. In 3D artist, you can become a character modeler or an environment modeler, texturing artist, rigging artist, animator. There are also job roles for sound designing. So you can make sounds. You can also, work around the audio engineering side of things. Then there's the marketing aspect as well. So you can market games. You can also become a business development manager. Just understanding this skill of making games can also help you land projects, and you being able to convince people to perhaps make games for them. So tons of opportunities in the gaming industry, tons of career options, and I would say the right time to start is right now. If you are watching this video, there's nothing stopping you in virtually in today's world to go after your skill and upskill yourself, because majority of the resources are available either for free or at a really low cost online. So if you have some bit of capital, please do invest in upskilling yourself, because knowledge gives the highest dividends and returns in terms of your skills. Whatever skill that you are learning will always help you in the long run. So I hope that answers your question. So, all right, I think a ton of questions have been missed. Let's see. Uh, okay. How are opportunities for Unity developers? Sai Narayana, I think the best thing now is that Unity game engine is the one of the widest used game engines in the game development industry. So the opportunities for Unity game developers are really, bright as uh, bright as the sun, I would say. Uh, how free games earns money? Uh, that's a good question. So there are two primary ways through which free games earn money, and this model is called as the freemium model. It's called that because when it comes to a paid game, the paid game offerings are called as premium games. But since you are not offering these games for a paid price point, you're offering them for free, yet you are making money from them. Hence, it's like a combination of those two words, free and premium. So this term is called as freemium games. Now, what the freemium model entails is that you earn either through showing ads or you earn through in-app purchases. So downloading the game essentially is free. After that, you start showing ads to people, and based on that, you will be able to earn, or you create a economy in your game, and then using that economy, you'll be able to earn. So those two are the ways that you can actually earn money. Okay. Avijay asks, what types of risk can we face during game development besides financial risk? Uh, really, that's a good question, Avijay. The risk that you face is risk of actually being dejected and people not taking you seriously, quite frankly, because when you start your career in game development, a lot of people don't really see game development as a full-time job, which is really not true. It very much requires the time and effort from your end, and that's a risk that when you're pursuing this field, pursuing this career path, people may say that, hey, okay, you are making games, but what is a full-time job that you're doing? So that's really generally the questions that get asked to you, and then you start self-doubting your decision. But you have to, get through that. You have to know in your head that, okay, this is the reason why I started pursuing this career, and there's nothing wrong in being a game developer. Game development field and profession is also just as respected as the other fields. In fact, I remember a statement from a friend of mine way back, I think almost a decade ago. He said that game programmers are perhaps the best programmers in the world, because making games is really, challenging your brain and mind. Because the way that game developers think, I think it's a really beautiful way of thinking. And I'm just speaking on the side from a game programmer, but even when it comes to a game artist or anything, what you're essentially doing is building something from zero. You're giving life to inanimated objects, and that really is fascinating thing, right? So while you might face all these rejections and dejections, I think the reason why you started off should be your motivator, and obviously there's the financial risk, as you rightly pointed out. Sainer and ask, I'm a Unity developer, develop VR-based games looking for better opportunities. Is there a path I can follow? The path that you can follow is start applying your knowledge and create projects. Keep on upskilling yourself. If you want to go for a career trajectory path wherein you want to hop from a job to other, just make sure that whenever you are hopping from one job to other, you are actually gaining something in terms of knowledge that you learned from your previous role. And during that as well, always think from the perspective of the company. What can you do that will actually help the company grow? So really, that's the way that you can create better opportunities to you, is by thinking for the other person. How is it that you will be able to actually contribute positively in their life? So this is really how you will be able to actually grow in life. And in terms of the better opportunities, I think just keep on upskilling yourself. Go after certifications. Go after making sure that you have the best in terms of the knowledge that you can possibly have, and just keep on upgrading yourselves. So how can okay, I answered the question, Pulkit. Can a person become both game designer and game developer? You can, but what I would always suggest is focus on your strengths and make sure that you collaborate with someone for your weaknesses. While it is possible that a single person can become both game designer, game developer as well, but I would say that try to steer clear of uh, that career roadmap. This primarily because it will be too confusing for you later on to actually focus on one thing. So pick your strengths, double down on that, and forget about the rest. That's my opinion, but it might differ from person to person, really, because you never know what works out for you. So generally, like in majority of the cases, people focus only on one thing and they excel at it. But if you are the jack of all trades, then by all means, it's your life and you can actually experiment. Who knows? It might work out for you. What are your views on Gacha games? So Gacha is a system. So that's a really interesting and technical question, Buddha. So Gacha is a system wherein it borders on delayed gratification. So what delayed gratification means is, and this is a very psychological concept, wherein you actually reward the player beforehand, but you say that, hey, I'm giving you this reward, but the reward can be claimed after X number of hours. And I find that call to action really powerful, because now what you're doing over here is you've told the user that, hey, this is a gift for you, but you have to actually wait in order to open that gift. So that gives a recall value for the user to come back to your game, and gives a way for you to re-incentivize the user. So you've already incentivized the user by giving this box as a gift, but then you are incentivizing the user again, saying that, hey, although you've received this, but in order to open this you have to wait. So I think this system itself is a really powerful system, and this system was originally conceptualized in I think, if I'm correct, Japanese games. So it's a wonderful system that they've devised, and a lot of popular games have actually implemented this system in their games. So yeah, those are some of my opinions on Gacha system. So that's it. Why the skills required for game development? Be a novice. Why are the skills required? So I mean, what you maybe your question might be, what are the skills required for game development? So it really depends on the job role that you are going after. So for programming, you require C++ or C sharp skills. For art, you have to determine, do you want to become a 2D or a 3D artist. For 3D artists, you have to know 3D modeling, texturing, or rigging, or animation, depending on your choice of expertise. For 2D art, you need to know skills, software skills. So in majority of the job roles, it's more of a software knowledge. And when it comes to marketing, then you have to pick up all your soft skills and hard skills as well, wherein you learn about what is your retention, how much is your CPI, or how what are the different types of acquisition channels that you can tap into. So all of these things. So it differs really from role to role. Ninja Gaming. So what subject we choose for programming? So what minimum specifications need to run Unreal Engine 4? So I think the minimum specifications for Unreal Engine 4 are already mentioned on Unreal Engine's website. So would encourage you to just go ahead and take a look over there. It's on their official website. I don't remember it at the top of my mind right now, but just check out their website and you'll get the answer over there. When it comes to what to choose for programming, I think as a starting point, you can go ahead and learn C++. Really that should be the starting point for you to pick up a programming language. Learn all the concepts well, and post that start experimenting hands on different game engines. As a starting point, I would recommend Unity game engine because it uses C sharp, and if you've learned C++ well, then you will be able to give a good amount of time to see to actually make games in C sharp using Unity. So yeah, which field or stream in BTech leads us to professional gaming world and placement? So, although BTech does not really offer placement in a gaming company, but what you can do is really, while you're pursuing BTech, opt for internships, because internships are a really good way to get prior experience. Whenever you go to any company, the primary thing they will ask you is what is the past experience that you have. Now you may have a degree, all right, degree is good, degree is a good backup option, surely that helps. But with just a degree and no prior experience, that becomes really not a good spot for you to be in. So start applying for internships, because at least for now, no BTech course that I'm personally aware of gives you a placement in a gaming company, right? So what you need to do over here is pursue your BTech, most certainly, definitely do that. And after that, in parallel, start learning this skill, start learning how to make games. And then once you learned that, after that, start to apply for internships, because once you apply for internships and you land an internship, then you get real industry exposure, and only after that will you be able to upskill yourself and get decent amount of jobs. Mohammed Asim Khan asks, please organize a session on AR VR career path and how to get ready for internships and jobs. Most certainly will do. Which field stream? Okay. Devanshi, I answered your question. PK Kushwa, hello. Scarecrow asks, hey Nikhil sir, I always wanted to become a game developer, but given the job insecurity, less salary for freshers and less entry level jobs, I gave up that dream. Your thoughts on this? So it's quite a common scenario, and I'll tell you why this happens is that the supply far outweighs the demand. So although yes, there is demand for new developers and artists, but the supply of that is really really high. Everyone wants to become a game developer. Everyone wants to come into this field and make games. Everyone wants to become a game artist. But the real question is there that much demand in the market? Is there a demand for uh, freshers as much as there is for senior level talent, right? And that far outweighs, like the gap over there is tremendous. So that's the reason why the salary is less and there is no job security, because the supply is constant and it's tremendous. It's just growing exponentially. So in this scenario, take whatever comes your way. Of course, yes, there will be demotivating times, but I think the only answer to that is persistence. If you're able to persist and survive in the industry, then only you will grow. So I think it's all a matter of persistence and patience and going through what you're doing and not giving up. I think even right now would be a good time to just get rid of that stigma and say that okay, whatever happens. I just cope with it. If you want to do something, you will do it. Pulkit Minch asks, how do you cope up with everything since you are a CEO and game developer for your company? So, Pulkit, I would correct you by saying that not actively programming any games in my company right now. I'm purely looking at the managerial side. The way that I cope up with everything is that I have actually created a really good team that takes care of all these things for me. So I don't really have to focus on actually sitting and programming games. That really helps. So the way that I have coped up with everything is by simply creating a really good team that I can rely on, and that has really given me the confidence and the bandwidth to go after developing magic in my company. Pulkit asked again, sir, please tell us about the role of physics that takes place in game development. I remember this from the game Just Cause 3. So physics is really important when you're making a game, and that's primarily because when you're a programmer, all of these things are really important for you to factor into. Because otherwise, if you don't know good physics, then potentially you might end up making a game that might be buggy or just not enjoyable. So as a game programmer, if you're making a physics-based game, certainly you need to know a little bit of physics. And that's if you're making a physics-based game. If you're making a really simple game such as like a 2048, wherein you don't really need to care about the physics much, then you don't need that knowledge. But if you're making a platformer, or if you're making a open world game, or even just a side scroller, then your knowledge of physics becomes really important, because you're then working with trajectories, you're working with velocity, you're working with different types of forces. So all of these differentiations, like how is force different from velocity, all of this factual conceptual knowledge should be really clear to you. So yeah, certainly physics plays a huge role in game development. The next question is, when it comes to Prachi Patole asks, when it comes to open world games, are there any extra technologies that get involved from a hardware, software, and different tools point of view? So absolutely yes. When it comes to open world games, there are tons of systems that go into place, tons of systems. So just to give you a small example, when it comes to audio, or when you start a game, all right, when you start a game, at the very start of the of a AAA game, there are so many logos that pop up. There's a logo of the company. There's a logo of the hardware that gets used. There's a logo of maybe the mocap studio that they had hired. There's a logo of the middleware engine that they use. So WWise is one example of sound middleware that really gets used. So open world games, making an open world games is literally as tough as rocket science, because there are so many components involved in making games that it's really tough to differentiate and keep a track of all of them. But yes, I would say that there are tons of extra technologies, and it is not just about being constrained to one single engine. There are many other middlewares and hardware requirements that you need to factor into in order to make open world games. Siddharth Singh asks why India is still lagging and not able to produce quality games. I would say that it's not true, Siddharth. I think I would request you to open up your perspective a little, because there have been some really good games that are coming out from India. And I can say this firsthand because I've seen the progress. There are some amazing games by fellow developers. There's this game called Raji. Then there's a studio called Oberon Studio, which makes some really good games. So really, if you look at it from a um, aerial perspective, there are good games and there are bad games. Alright? And it's not about India as such. It's not about a specific country. There are good game developers in every country. There are bad game developers in every country. It's just that India has now started to catch up to the world and global standards. We are now churning out some really good games. So I would say that India is on track, and we've got the population, we've got the talent in place. So just wait it out for a bit, and in fact, you don't even need to wait. There are some already really good quality published games out there. It's just a matter of discovery. These games are perhaps not getting discovered as much as they should, but just from a cosmetic perspective, there are some really amazing games being developed in India. In fact, I would say that much of the global games have had Indian talent working on the asset side of things, or the code side of things, because that's how it works. Most of the AAA studios, they essentially outsource bulk of their work to different companies, and most of the companies that have worked on some AAA titles are also based in India. So yeah. Uh, Karthik asks, are there a lot of differences between mobile versus PC games versus console games in terms of development? What does the learning curve look like? Also, amazing initiative. Thanks. Keep going. So Karthik, yes, first of all, thank you very much for your kind words. There is tons of difference between mobile, PC, and console games. When you're developing for PC, you just really need to factor into your keyboard and mouse controls. When you're porting a game onto the mobile platform, you have to look at a lot of different types of inputs. So you have to look at gyro, you have to look at touch controls, you have to look at haptic feedback and all. So, however, still relatively making games on mobile is quite easy. When it comes to PC game, the reason why the complexity increases is that you then are looking at different hardware. Will your game work efficiently on all the different extremely variation type of hardwares that are out there? And then console is a different ball game altogether. Console is a beast because you are then actually looking at licensing cost. You are looking at a completely different exposure when it comes to controls, because now you are working with controller. You are limited with the key combinations that you have. At least on a keyboard, you have so many keys that you can work with. But when it comes to a console, if you have made a game for PC, then you have to really think about what kind of controls will be mapped onto the console platform. And really, the primary difference between a console and PC game is how effectively are the controls mapped to the gameplay. So that's the difference. And yes, it is actually quite a task to develop a game for different platforms. It's not like a one-click solution wherein you make a game for PC and it automatically gets ported. It is hard effort that goes into development, and it is hard effort that goes into also porting these games. So I hope that answers your question. Prachi Patole, thank you for your kind words. Okay, I think how to start game development at the age of 17. Just go ahead and watch multiple resources that are out there. How much relevance does software engineering have with game development? If you know software engineering, I think you have the aptitude, and that would certainly help you in game development. It is largely different though, like making software and making games are two different things, two vaguely different things. But at least as a software developer, if you have the core aptitude of making software, then that really would help you as a game developer as well. So guys, if you're watching this session and you're liking it, do hit the like button. And if you're coming on to Scalar's channel for the very first time, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon so you don't miss any other update or videos from Scalar Academy. Scalar really helps you in upscaling your knowledge. So certainly subscribe to the channel, check out all their content. And I already had done a session on Unity, the basics of Unity game engine. So if you are interested in that, check that out as well. All the development are similar in terms of effort required. Harshit, yeah, absolutely. Which companies give internship for gaming career during BTech? There can be multiple companies, Devanshi. I think all you need to do is first make a list of all the companies that are out there in India. Check out their websites, check out their LinkedIn pages, check out if at all there are any job postings done by them on these different job portals. One can be monster.com, one can be Naukri jobs. The really good recent times, there is a really good company called Outscale, which really helps in getting students placement. So you can check out Outscale as well. So these are the couple of things that you can find internships on. Which companies give internship for? Okay, I answered that question. Highfly, what is the employee salary? So that is confidential information. Highfly, I'm sorry, I cannot be disclosing that information publicly. Bulkit means I have heard about Photon in Unity for server, and I believe it's free to make. How much does a company pay for the server? So it depends on the usage really. If you're using Photon, the very first plan of them is 20 CCU to up to 20. So up to 20 CCUs can be free. Post that, I think the pricing is mentioned on their website. What do you think of metaverse games like Decentraland, Sandbox? Do you think they have a future? So if, can't really say for sure because right now these are the technologies that are really riding high. So I would love to see how they scope out in terms of the future because it would be interesting to see if they can be a complete game changer for game development or and they will have mass level adoption because without mass level adoption it will be really difficult for us to say if these will continue to grow. Maybe perhaps they can eventually become like a niche wherein the whales of games, right? The whales are like the super high spenders and continue investing their time and effort and money in these games because when it comes to games, whales are the biggest spenders, and when it comes to crypto games, whales are the only people that you find in crypto games because the barrier to entry to these games is extremely high. Pulkit means Rockstar is American. Search for it. Muhammad Asim Khan asked how to create a team for game development AR VR. I'm a second year student interested in AR VR. I'm in my college and have juniors interested in game developers AR VR. What should I do? Set up a AR VR company. So find like-minded people at your level. Being a second year student, you have a lot of time on your hand. What you can do is essentially talk to these people and ask them if they would like to partner up with you and be a part of your team. If that can happen, then well and good. Then you've got your team. Otherwise, start talking to like-minded people. Start researching about this field in Facebook groups or whatever, and that's how you will be able to create a team. And by the way, from my side, I wish you all the best to come up with your AR VR company. All the best. Phantom, future of hyper casual games for Android. So hyper casual games are interesting, but to come up with new ideas for hyper casual games is the toughest job. While these games are really good to play, it is now interesting to see that now that we've seen so many hyper casual games, how are we really going to innovate on this category? So that would be interesting to see. Certainly, new people bring in new ideas to the table. So there will be innovations, but I think to a large extent we have seen the wave of hyper casual games, and they've been really amazing so far. Looking forward to see what lies in the future, and what kind of new concepts come up in the future as well. Prince P voice is coming. Perhaps it might be because of a light echo in my room. Maybe that's the reason why it can be weird for you. Thoughts on WebAssembly and game development crossover? Uh, WebAssembly and game like there are also HTML5 games, right? So yeah, that's also there. What is the effect of playing video games on human mind? So there can be two kinds of effects. One can be the positive effect and negative effect. Certainly, touching a little bit upon the negative side of things, anything done in excess can be negative. But if done in a controlled manner, games can be really positive impact. Because I remember and I know that playing Assassin's Creed for that matter really brushed up my knowledge in history. Being a part of MMORPGs helped me with my typing speed. So there can be a lot of interesting positive outcomes from games. It's just it's a really good reflex mechanism as well. It improves your reflexes, but anything done in excess really is damaging. So make sure you play games in a controlled manner, and that's my advice. So in one sentence, how would you explain that in game development, most things such as audio, it's all connected? In one sentence, if I were to explain, I would say it's a marriage of all these beautiful skills, right? Because when you're making games, you're giving life to inanimate objects. And in order to do that, you really have to think out of the box and push yourself beyond the limits. So yeah, that's my thoughts on game development. Devanshi, thank you very much for the kind words. FB Edits, hello. So I believe that brings us to the end of the session. We've got the last 5 minutes. So I will take last one question or so. I think I'll wrap up with Pulkit Min's question. What are some laws in India for video games and its development? I think the laws in India are very much favorable for game development, and we as a country have now also started supporting game development. Our honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, he also announced his support for the gaming industry, and I think that serves as a really good validation for the industry. So I would like to officially thank him for doing this for the community of game developers. That's a really good move. In addition to that, I would say keep on. I think there are some laws with regards to the gambling space, which by far needs to be regulated, obviously, most certainly. But I think the overall other laws are very much unfavorable for game development, and that's a really good, way to look at it from future perspective, because the scope of game development in India seems really bright for now, and looking forward to have continued the same in the future as well. So I believe that brings us to the end of this session. As a last call to action, I would say that if you are new over here, subscribe to Scalar's channel. They put out some really good content with regards to different type of skills. So if you want to learn any technical skills, Scalar is the channel for you. Subscribe to them and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any other videos from their end. Additionally, if you liked today's session, please hit the like button and share it on your social media so that you are able to share this wealth of knowledge with your friends and colleagues who might potentially be interested in game development as well. So with that said, I would like to thank you all for being present on a Saturday evening on Scalar's YouTube channel, and looking forward to provide much more value. Please do follow Scalar on all of their social media platforms as well. And would like to end this note thanking Scalar as well for inviting me on your channel. With that, I'm signing off. A small reintroduction to myself is my name is Nikhil Malankar. I've been in this industry since 2013. I've made a lot of games, and I feel privileged to be able to spend this time with you all on this Saturday evening and provide some value to you. So that's it from my side, and take care. Have a safe weekend, and yeah, that's it.